Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your man Mario, host of the Random Select podcast and also host of Gaming with the Watts, the podcast. I am normally joined by my daughter Dominique, but she's not here. She had to work today, so she got to do what pays her bills, you know what I mean. And one day, hopefully, this will be one of them type of things that help pay some bills, or at the very least help keeping content. So if y'all want to do that, go on ahead and go to that not Spotify, but to the Anchor. Listen to us, support us right here on YouTube, on Spotify, on Anchor, everywhere else. If you want to just, $1.99, $4.99, however you want to do it, we'll take it. So far, this is going to be the 4th episode of Gaming with the Watch, the podcast. And we truly thank you guys for rocking with us, for hanging with us. We even had some people in Ireland listen to the podcast, and I just want to thank you guys too as well. That officially makes us international, not in some people's eyes, but in our eyes. And in our eyes is the only eyes that matter, to a certain degree. But we appreciate you guys as well. And you can catch the podcast on most places that podcasts are streamed. Your favorite place. We're working on to get on to Apple Podcast and Google Podcast. But right now we're in a lot of good places. And like I said, you can catch us on Anchor, Spotify, Overcast, places like that, So, the first podcast was a really good podcast. I think it was. We talked about microtransactions, and I asked in that podcast that give us a little time to grow, and we'll try to get better and better as with each podcast, or we'll get worse. In either case, we're working very hard at getting better or at getting worse. But I do miss my daughter not being on the podcast. So, on the second podcast, we talked about what did we talk about? Oh, we talked about the upcoming console wars, which is coming, people. Be very, very afraid they're coming, because we don't know what the price is going to be. There's all type of rumors and speculations out there, but we really don't know. Are you an Xbox person? Are you a PlayStation person? Or will you be that very, very fortunate person that will get both the systems? And that, with that being said, I would have said you lucky, lucky, lucky person. Why do I still wear this thing around my neck? I can't help it, people. I'm getting old. I like to have the comforts of certain things around my neck. And I'm talking about my, my little thing, my Bluetooth headset that I talk into, because if I have to hold a phone to talk to you, then it's going to be a very short conversation, because for some reason I just don't fancy holding the phone anymore. Yeah, so in the third podcast, we just talked about our favorite games and where would we like to see gaming go, where the gaming currently is, and we just talked about some games from the past. It's easy to catch you guys up because it's only been 3 episodes. I promise you, as time go on, I will not be recapping episodes of the podcast, because there'll probably be too many to recap. So, since my daughter's not around and we didn't have the round robin table going back and forth as to what we wanted to talk about this week, I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. And this is going to be my little impromptu review of The Last of Us 2 and just some my overall personal comments on it. And yeah, and I promise I won't hold you up too long. I promise I won't keep you guys. So with that being said, The Last of Us 2, as you guys know by now, it's been talked about through and through. It's been one of the most controversial games from a gaming community standpoint that we probably have ever seen, as far as people so invested into the characters, the main characters, the protagonist, the antagonist, and the new people that came along. And a lot of people said right from the beginning that The Last of Us part one stood on its own merit. It didn't necessarily need a part two. And some people just begged and clamored and said, we don't need a part two for The Last of Us, you know? But they was able to go ahead and put a part two in there anyway. So I have varying opinions on this, but I'm gonna go with the one that I feel most prominent about, the one that I feel that's really on my heart and on my mind. So like I said, I'm gonna keep this short, but I'm gonna say this. Okay, first and foremost, let's address the elephant in the room. Let's address well, some people would call it the elephant in the room, but I would say it's not an elephant in the room. You know, Naughty Dog didn't just address the elephant in the room. They pretty much told you that we don't even see an elephant in the room, and if we did see an elephant in the room, then we take one of the guns that we could build the silent filters on in the game, and we put the elephant down. Pretty much, it's just that simple. But a lot of people in the gaming community saw it as the elephant in the room, and that's what they did to Joel, right? Within maybe an hour or two of the game. Now, I don't want to go into the spoiler stuff that we saw, that you tried your best not to watch, you tried your best not to see, but you couldn't help but to do it because human nature says, I just need to know, because I'm nosy. I just need to know, because I've been waiting for this game for so long. I just need to know what happened. So a lot of us knew already what was coming, but still was shocked by the fact that it happened, and just the way that it happened and how it happened, and especially once the story totally unfolded, then you really felt some type of way about it. But a lot of people went on this rant where they was like, well, they didn't even want to play the game after that. How could Naughty Dog write such trash? How could Naughty Dog do what they did? And I wasn't one of those people. Because if we're being totally honest, if Naughty Dog would have came back and gave you some Naughty Dog 1.2 or 1.5 instead of giving you a Last of Us 1.2 or 1.5 instead of giving you a full complete part 2, then you would have said Naughty Dog has fallen off. Naughty Dog could have been a little bit more creative than this. But nobody looks at the fact that they had the courage to go against the grain. They had the courage to do something that most game developers do not. And we are a society that we love to complain. We love to say that there's no originality in writing. There's no originality in thought process. Everybody always do remakes and rehashes and reimaginings and remake songs and take songs from the 80s and the 60s and make new songs. But when somebody do come up with something that's different than what you would like, then they could have did 1,000 other things. But here's the thing. Applaud them for the fact that they had the balls to just go against the grain and do something that they knew would send shockwaves down the proverbial gaming community spine. You know, and not everybody agreed with it. But here's the other issue. Maybe and it's good that we got invested in a character so deep in Joel and Ellie. And Joel and Ellie is The Last of Us. You can't even say The Last of Us without thinking of Joel and Ellie. Period, point blank. I get that. All right, I understand that. But are we so close-minded that we just don't want to open up our brain to allow the story to go elsewhere, to go somewhere else? And then a lot of you guys say that they forced this alternative lifestyle, perceived sexuality down your throats. Forcing something down your throat is literally you not having an option to not play, turn away, turn off, or do something else. By you continuing to play was not forcing it down your throat. By you continuing to play lets you know that there was something there that intrigued you enough to make you want to keep playing the game. Now, if we want to talk about some cons of the game, yes, as far as playing the game, there were some pacing issues. I mean, this is something that you can't get around. This is something that is clear, obvious, and present, that at times the game was really dreadfully slow. But that's not to say that when you got a bunch of zombie games, the jump scare type games, I think that's what they try to do to a certain degree. I think that's part of the storytelling. I think that's part of the genre, to try to lull you into a false sense that everything is slow, and then bam, jump out and ramp it up from 0 to 100 really quick, to kind of make you sort of forget that you just went through 20 minutes of pretty much looting, pillaging, and looking for weapons and supplies. It kind of, that one moment where you say, boy, they got me, makes you forget about all that. I really think that's a format and a formula that they go by, because the pacing at times is god awful. I mean, I love the game, but that was definitely an issue to me. And for the most part, if you're being really negative and talking about the cons, it kind of plays a lot like the Last of Us. The Last of Us. Yeah, it kind of plays a lot like that, but you gotta marvel at the fact that this was just a visual, detailed masterpiece for the PlayStation 4. If this is the way the PlayStation 4 cycle has to end, on this particular high note, then I'm all right with that. I'm fine with that. To be honest with you, I know a lot of you guys didn't like the way the story went, didn't like how it progressed, and especially how the story ended. We'll talk about it. We'll revisit that in 1 second. But if you look at it just from the sheer standpoint of game making and development, it was a great game. Visually stunning. Sound wise, fidelity, stunning. The accessibility screens, the options that they gave you, stunning. Sometimes, I have RP myself, retinitis pigmentosa. So, which is, sometimes I have trouble seeing in low light. They had settings for people like me. So I applaud them as a developer, as just to have the wherewithal, the forethought to say, we want everybody to try to experience this game in their own way, in some form or fashion. And I appreciate that. That's for all the things you say about Naughty Dog, people say about Naughty Dog and the crunch culture and whatever they work thing is. They still show you that on a certain level, they care about the gamer. And that right there, I can appreciate. That right there, I could get behind. So, but I know a lot of people just looking at it from the standpoint that they did their beloved Joel wrong. And they had Ellie and Joel acting out of character. Now, there was some, when Joel first encountered Abby, they know that unless time has softened Joel, he wouldn't have been so trusting. But maybe time did. That's the thing y'all can't wrap y'all mind around. That maybe Joel was in a place in his life where he actually felt a little peace, a little at ease, and he just softened up a little bit. And maybe Ellie and what he saw with Tommy and his wife, maybe it made him loosen up just a little bit. He was out searching for guitar strings. As you see in that little 4-year period when they did the flashbacks, there's a lot of things Joel softened on. He cared enough for her to take her to the place where she could be, if only for a moment. Imagine that she was an astronaut going to the stars. And you only do that when you've softened a little bit to say that I think this would be a really cool thing for her to experience, and you do it for her, So if you want to just pick apart the story and say there was a few character flaws, yes. But at the end of the day, it was a good game. The story flowed to me. Like I said, it had some patient issues in that time. Do I think that we played with Abby just a skosh too long? Yes. But that's just not because it was Abby. I just think that particular part was just a skosh too long, period. But it kind of gives you a glimpse as into human nature and how people think, and how all this pent up anger you got toward things and toward humanity and toward people becomes a point where, does the bigger picture matter more than that anger that you feeling for that person, or that feeling that you got for revenge? And at some point, Ellie had to let it go. And I guess she got to that point. Now, to me personally, and this is not knocking the story, but I'm just saying me personally, I felt Ellie took too long to let it go, to lose 2 fingers and to lose everything that you lost and still didn't get the revenge that you were seeking. I don't know if that's all the way realistic, because if somebody going to travel from Jackson, Wyoming all the way out to California, I'm not going there to be diplomatic, and I'm not going there for lilies and picnics and dandelions and butterflies. I can assure you that. And then at this point, Jesse, since you didn't take revenge, Jesse lost his life for no reason. You know, you lost Dina and the baby. And that's another thing. A lot of people who quote unquote live the straight lifestyle and the Christian lifestyle say that they force the lesbianism and alternative lifestyle stuff down your throat, the transgender stuff. It's like they just want to make you be comfortable with that in the game. Sometimes in order to make an omelet, as they say, you have to crack a few eggs. Now, not everybody lives that lifestyle, and not that is not in every part of our culture, but it is entrenched in most parts of our culture. It is what it is. And if you still in denial about that, then maybe you got some things you need to look in the mirror and face and understand that that's a part of the society that we live in. No, you don't have to agree with it. And I'm fine with it as long as you're not trying to force whatever that lifestyle is on me. But I do agree with the fact that they have the right to be however they gonna be. And yes, it is part of our society. Therefore, they felt it should be part of the game. And that's that. And overall, the flashbacks were some of the most enjoyable parts for me. And a lot of people say that because, you get the chance to see Joel and hang out and interact. It is. It's one of the very best parts. But just applaud Naughty Dog for taking a chance, swinging for the fences, and I think they did. They took a lot of flack for it, but they stood tall and just say it is what it is. We went through it in the direction we went in, and that's the game we presented. Because if you look at it, other than that part, it was a solid game that stood on its own. It was a very damn good game. And that you have to definitely understand and recognize that it really was a good game. And now they've come out with the permadeath, and they came out with extra content. They made it where if you think you're really good at the game, show us. If you think you're really good at getting supplies and managing your ammo and really think you that dude, as everybody like to walk around talking about you a boss. If you really a boss, they got a mode where they pretty much saying, show me you a boss, you know? So something just dropped. I don't know what that was, but we're gonna keep it moving. Okay. They saying, show me you a boss. So to wrap it all up, to sum it all up, yes, to me personally, I would give it an 8 out of a 10 because the pacing issues. And sometimes, the enemies didn't feel really that tough, but I like the fact that it was a great story. I like the fact that they took time to put details in. And one negative thing, I'm not a big fan of everywhere you go in this post-apocalyptic world, people don't have anything else, but they sure got safes, and they sure put them in some of the most put the codes to the safe in the most inauspicious places. They overdid the safe thing too much. I definitely agree with that. And for a lot of things that didn't happen in the post-apocalyptic world, they write a lot of damn notes. But it was a really solid game. And once you get past the fact that your beloved Joel was taken out relatively early, you understand that it was a good game. And yes, did you really want to play with Abby? No, but let's just be honest. When you play with Abby, the gunplay got a little better. She just did things that Ellie didn't do. So it just depends on if you're looking at it with an open mind and unjaded by the fact that your beloved Joel was killed, and you realize it was a solid game. And no matter what you think about it, it was still better than a lot of games that came out on the PlayStation 4 this year. And this is a hell of a way to close out the PlayStation 4. So if you get a chance, and if you haven't played it or you haven't got it already, sorry if I put out any spoilers or anything like this. I guess I should have led with there may be some spoilers, but pick up the game, especially if you played one already. If you haven't played one, play one first, then come to this game, and it'll give you a whole lot of perspective and a lot of stories, and a lot of things got answered in The Last of Us 2. I think it's definitely worth playing, and I think it's definitely worth buying. I know a lot of people saying if I knew it was going to be like this, I would have never bought it. It's a good buy. It's worth it. So with that being said, I recommend The Last of Us 2. It was a great game to me. And as I said, I give it 8 out of 10, and you should definitely buy. And that's going to wrap this episode up. Don't forget, we are everywhere out there that you stream your podcast. This is Gaming with the Watch, the podcast. Don't forget, if you're watching it, go ahead and hit that notification bell, that like, thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. Please share if you know somebody out there who's into gaming, or if you know another family that likes to watch gaming or listen to podcasts. Just go ahead and send them that link and let them check us out, and maybe we can make a new friend. And if you feeling us, leave a comment down below in the comment section, and I will try to get back to you, me and Dominique, as soon as we possibly can. And Drayton will be uploading Ghost of Tsushima soon. And with that being said, don't forget, if you want to support us, go ahead over to that Anchor and support, and we will truly appreciate it. So this is your man Mario, and normally with Dominique, she's not in, but we want to say thank you for tuning in to Gaming with the Watch, the podcast, and we'll catch you guys next week with an all new episode. All right. Until then, we will catch you on the other side of them sticks. Cause remember, family that plays on the sticks together, sticks together. All right.